this Mark's Reviews and Tutorials video. Today I'm going to show you how to put a new mechanical seal into a swimming pool pump. It's the same for a spa pump. You have here the lint pot where the water comes in. This is your impeller and so forth is in here. We'll get to that, and then the water shoots out the top and returns back to the pool. And this is your electric motor that drives it. In this case, it's a multi-speed pump, but that's irrelevant for the seal change. So you've got your wet part here and your electrical part there. So obviously you need to seal the water away. This has got the shaft in it, which is turning the impeller, and there's a seal on that shaft. Here's the new seal here. This is a Hurlcon. Any of the Hurlcons with this body on the front take what's called a Type 6 seal. This is the new seal that's going to come in, and basically the white you see there is ceramic, and on the front of this mechanical part here there's a carbon face, so it's a carbon ceramic seal, and the spring you see there holds tension, so those two hold together, and that's what actually seals the water out. When that fails, water starts to leak. You can see here there's been some corrosion. There's some mild corrosion going on there. When that's really bad, like if this is all broken away and you touch it and it's all stuffed, then I would recommend that you don't even bother to replace the bearings and seal, but replace the motor. Sometimes, particularly with a multi-speed pump like this, these are a lot more expensive to buy, so it can be worth repairing. But in this case, it just needs a seal. That corrosion there's all fine. So we'll pull it apart, and that's, again, you'll find out what it's really like, because it's the other side of this end shield here that really matters. So step one, we're going to take the pump face off, because we have to get the impeller off. So step one is pump face off with all of these bolts here. Favorite spanner set here to get this off. I believe it's a 13. Let's have a look. Yes, it is. See these guys here, they've got a tilting head this way, and they're a ratchet spanner, which you can do or turn it around and undo your bolts. Really good in tight situations. Particularly I use these for getting spa pumps out. I'll put a link through the description if you want to find yourself a set like these. But really handy, and they really speed up your work. You see here, this bolt has a nut on the other side, so when it's spinning, you can either get another 13mm spanner and hold it there, or when this casing is really close, you can actually just stick a screwdriver in there and then use the ratchet spanner, and the screwdriver will stop the nut from spinning. It's a little bit too tight to use your fingers, so a screwdriver is very handy. As you can see how good these spanners are, particularly when you're on an angle, you need to come in for a bit of an angle or something like that. Really quick and easy. There we go, that bolt's out. The others are straight in. We'll get these out and we'll get the pump face. Okay, so all the bolts are out. So now there we go, that's come out. You can see this guy here connects onto this face. It's just a bit of debris and stuff built up there, but that just presses in place. You've got to remember this to put it back. Then a couple of little Phillips head screws, we'll take that off, and then we'll be through. This is a volute plate, and then next level through is through to the impeller. Now yours may be slightly different inside. They don't all have nose cones like this on them, but it'll be very, very similar to this. I have just put a mark on here. These volutes can have a direction where they go back in. There'll be little pins that locate it into place and hold it in place, but it just makes it super easy. Put a mark on it, then you know you're going to put it back in the right place. Okay, with the volute plate off, we can see the impeller now, and you're going to have something, be it some Stilsons, or this is an oil filter wrench that I use on barrel unions, something big enough to grab onto the front here, or even onto the impeller. Remember, it's plastic, you can't go squishing the living daylights out of it, and a big screwdriver to stick into the back, because there's a slot in the shaft in the back. So the big screwdriver goes in the back, and then you turn it here until it locks into place, and then grab it on the front. Now the way to turn it, the impeller, you can work out which way the impeller is turning. It's turning that way, so it's spinning that way to pump the water. So the motor, if you like, is turning that way to pump the water. So to get the impeller off, its tension is that way. To get the impeller off, if you're holding the shaft still, you actually turn it that way, over the top. I'll show you. Stick that in the back. Now this one, I've broken the catch on this already. See there, bang, and it comes off, and then the impeller will screw off. So a bit counterintuitive, but that's the way it goes. And as you can see, there's your seal. The front half of it sitting on there, the back half of it sitting in place there. That shaft's in excellent condition. There's no rust or anything on that at all. It's looking really, really good. And as you can see, again, if you look up in there, I did spray a bit of WD-40 into there to lubricate it, but because it was tight, it's never going to get inside on this model because of the big neck that's on here. It's never going to fit inside. If this is all broken and shattered, you do need to replace your impeller because this is what the seal sits onto. So now we'll pull that seal off just like that. That comes off. So here I just want to show you the carbon ceramic seal. This is the ceramic, this is the carbon, and that is your two faces. They run on there like that, and that's what provides your seal. This seal going onto here is actually a little bit tight, so I'm going to put some silicon-based lubricant. This is the one I'm using, but I'll put a link in the description. I'll put a link for some good tools and a bit of lubricant. Don't use Vaseline in this situation. It's sealing rubber, so it is good to put a little bit of lubricant on it, and that'll help it to slide on there a bit better. There we go. In place like that. That's perfect and beautiful. See, it's moving. Okay, so now we've got the impeller off and that other seal off. We can now take off this backing plate, which will bring that seal out and off. You don't want to undo those other bolts and take that off. There's 4 bolts on the back here, these big guys. Don't take them off before because you can damage your impeller and jam it all up. But now's to take the time to take that off, and we can also inspect the front plate at this time, and I'm going to give all this a bit of a clean up and spray paint to stop any further corrosion. Okay, so those 4 bolts are out, and then bang, just like that, that comes off. Now have a look in there. You might think, oh my gosh, spider web, that's crazy. That's actually not too bad. We'll give it all a clean out and see how it looks, but when it's really deep and pitted in, that's all on the surface at the moment. When it's really deep and pitted in, that's when that's a problem. This has been in a moist environment though, which has kept it moist. So we'll clean all out. One of the big things you're looking for is rust on the shaft. Now it's back here. It's actually, there's a little bit of rust there, as you can see. Again, that is not a big issue. It's when it's pitted in and disappeared. I'll put up another photo here of some spa pumps. They were cheapy China pumps that have rusted right away. But this actually will give all that a good clean out, and then give it a spray, and that will be absolutely fine. See, there's no damage, nothing has gone into the motor here. It's all protected. So that, yes, this has been on a saltwater pool, so a little bit of moisture does a lot of damage, but it's been caught in time. This will actually clean up. Okay, so here's the old seal. You can see on there's some wear marks just up on this sealing face here. And on this one, I don't know how much you're going to pick it up on the video, but you see there's areas here where there's holes where it's contacting and then not touching, and down here there's the same and a bit of a mark. That what can actually happen, you get a seal gets scored, so a little bit of stone or a bit of muck gets in it and starts to run around between the ceramic and the carbon and causes a scratch so that the water can get out. And to feel that, it's really quite rough, and the new one's not feeling rough. This is nice and smooth. That's the brand new one. You compare those two, the new and the old. That's still feeling nice and smooth, the ceramic, but the carbon certainly is really, really quite rough. So anyway, we'll swap that out, put a new seal in him. Sometimes you can put a bit of silicone on when you want to sit this back in, the new one, obviously, but it shouldn't be necessary. But if you've got some roughness or whatever where it's going in, you can certainly put a bit of silicone on to help that seal, but normally not required. This is how it looks after a spray off. There's no brushing or anything taking place, just a spray off with the hose, getting rid of all of the loose, those big flakes of the paint came off as well, the corrosion under there. So I'm going to put another coat of paint on that, just so that if and when this seal leaks eventually, there'll be some protection down there so the water can leak out. You see there's channels and gaps down here for the water to leak out so it doesn't pool up. But that's come up really well. It's when, you see how this is just on the surface around here, it hasn't pitted in and dug in or eaten away or anything like that. If it was, we're looking at replacing, but this is going to repair up, no problem at all. So I will put a bit of paint on that shaft as well, just covering up that bit of rust to protect it. Here we go, that motor's dried out now, so that's ready for paint. it was oxidizing, not rusting, so it's a little bit different, but it tends to soak in a lot of water, so it's important to let it dry, then you get a good coating when you paint him out. Now, we gave it a bit of a spray up. I sprayed it inside in the blue. I've got a blue enamel, which is also a primer, so it hangs on a bit better. So just sprayed it all up inside there, just so that if this seal leaks again, like obviously brand new, it's not going to leak, but if it leaks again, it's not going to fall straight onto the bare metal. It's going to fall onto a painted surface and dribble out. There was a little bit of blue on the edges, so I then touched it up with the black, just so that when we bolt him all up, there'll be none of that blue available. But there it is, all painted up. That is just surface corrosion, as you saw. There's nothing pitty, nothing structural in it, so that's ready to run again. There was also a little bit of corrosion down in these two bolts down here, so I put a bit of WD-40 into there, just the standard stuff, and that breaks up that as well. The top ones don't need it. You can see they're still in great condition, brass and all good. So this is ready to be assembled now. I've put the seal in. That was just a matter of give it a good old press with your thumbs to get it in, and that's now in place and really good. Make sure the ceramic's in the right way. You need that flat face out. The other side's got a slot in it, so you know which side's right. You want the flat face out. So first things first, we're going to bolt this onto here and do up these 4 bolts. That's step 1. I'll show you how to put pretty much all pumps back together, but if you are using a Hurlcon, it has a foot down here, and at this point the front of the foot slides through and comes into these 2 little pins before you bolt the face on. The other thing to do at this stage is to just get a little bit of lube and put it onto this O-ring, just to give it a bit more life, so there's no chance of it leaking out of there. It's now lubed. Again, using a silicon-based lubricant, not Vaseline. Vaseline stretches O-rings. I'll put a link through the description for some different places you can get some different pump spares, and also the Hydroslip lubricant. If you're in Australia, I can get these sort of bits and pieces for you, but try your local pool shop first for little bits and pieces. If you're after a whole motor, absolutely, give me a call. I sell it at a discount price. I post them all over Australia, and I sell really, really good quality pumps and motors. I can get you the spares as well, but try your local pool shop first, see what they carry, see what they can get in. So next is your impeller. You've got to make sure your sealing face is all good and clear on here. This is pressed in and it's home right to the bottom here. And the same, we've made sure that this hasn't been bumped out. As I said, just check with your finger to make sure it's the same distance. It's not like 1 mil this side and 2 mil that side. Make sure it's square. And then we simply screw the impeller on. It just slops over like that and then screws on. Obviously the shaft in the motor is spinning as well. But there we go. And I will nib that up. I'll just put a screwdriver in the back again and just nib it up so it's tight. And then we start the process with the volute plate and the 2 screws that go on there, and then the nose cone. Volute's on. As you can see, I lined up the lines with the marker at the top. Screws are in, and I'll put the nose cone actually into the front. Doesn't really matter which way you put it, but just when you line him up, make sure that it goes in. Don't go forcing it. Make sure that the body comes and sits all the way flat black. That shows that the nose cones, if it's like jammed out and you've got to pull up with the bolts, then most likely your nose cone hasn't lined. She's looking more like a big pump again now. So I've bolted the face on and done them up nice and tight. Now again, these are big metal bolts going into a metal knurl, so you can give them a bit, get them up nice and tight. You don't want them to wobble loose. And again, these here, nice and solid. So got them all up nice and tight, looking good. So let's give it a run. Because of course you want to see if anything's right, that the impeller can still spin. Let's start him up. That's off and running. There's no screeching, squealing. If any noises or any rubbing, you will have to pull it apart and fix it. Means the volute or the impeller or something's not right. That's all running perfect. This is a multi-speed pump. Have a look up here. I'll put a link to multi-speed pumps. I don't like them actually. And down on cleaning. These are okay as long as you don't put them on an auto cleaner or on a pool with a spill wall. That's where they really don't work. But that's doing good. She's ready to go back to the customer's pool. Oh, one more thing. If you want to do a test, or you should do a test, fill it up with water just up to where it floods out here, fill it right up with water so all this casing here fills up, and then just sit it out on some concrete or somewhere where you're going to see if there's any drips, and just that way you can check your mechanical seal is well placed and check that your O-ring, everything's not going to leak before you take it back to site in my case, or fill it up. So always fill it with water and just check how it's going. Don't run it dry for too long. A couple of seconds like we've done just now is absolutely fine, but don't run it dry for long periods of time. They need water in them. The little bit of water, a little film of water actually gets between the ceramic and the carbon, and that's what actually provides the seal and what lubricates it. So just don't run them dry. Okay, all repaired, ready to go back and run for years and years and years.